Hi everyone! Wow, so today we are gonna be talking about what are you hungry for, and this is like one of the most important things that we can go through and that you can acknowledge and that you can be practicing in your everyday life, because like we have been taught from like the early age, a lot of us, have been taught that like our hunger is one way or another. Hey Susan, that is our hunger is like one way or another bad, right? It may have been about the food. It often happens with the food, right? Which as children we learn like you can have ice cream after dinner, right? You can have ice cream after you ate your broccoli or whatever, and that already is that one way of creating, first of all, unhealthy relationship with food, and second of all, unhealthy relationship with our desires, right? And then when you want something and it's denied to you, then you learn like, I'm not good enough to get this, right? As a child, you don't understand like that your parents mean the best for you and that something is maybe just not available at the moment and so on. As children, we are, yeah, exactly. That is like one of the biggest issues that created, it starts at such an early age, like parents are trying their best. Of course, no mother and no parent and no grown-up comes and like tells a 3-year-old like you can have a cookie if you eat your broccoli, with an intention to create disordered eating, right? They don't do that with an intention to fuck you up in any way, shape or form. But that's what happens, you know, because a child doesn't understand that. The child understands that they wanted something and they didn't get it, right? And then, you know, next time they are gonna be hiding to eat that ice cream. They are gonna be like eating it somewhere far away from the parents because their appetite and their desire is somehow bad, right? They don't understand like the backstory of what their parents are trying to do, and our subconscious mind of course keeps that. And then we go through life thinking that our desires are bad, our appetite is bad, we shouldn't want things. And especially as women, we are always like learning to be quiet, right? Not to stir the pot, not to like make a mess, to be a good girl, to be a nice girl. And those are stories that we learn as like young children, and we carry that with us through life until the day comes when we need to work through that, right? When we realize that that is something that we really need to like, we can't go on like that, because unfortunately for like most of the people, we only change when our desire to change is bigger than our desire to stay the same. And that happens when you know, when the mess is just too big to handle. Hi. And so, you know, with the eating and with the desires, it all comes together. And that's why I love this intuitive eating. I love starting with it, because hunger is often like a way for us to tune in and to see, like, because we learn to eat then, you know, when we are not really hungry. We learn then to eat emotionally also, and this is also something, especially as girls, we learn, you know, that we can't be angry, we can't scream, we can't cry, we can't, you know, express our feelings, our emotions. And what happens then is, of course, then we go to eat, right? And I want to make really, really clear, because I see this a lot on social media and so on. This emotional eating is being approached with a certain hostility, like it's the worst thing that you can do, like how to stop emotional eating, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. But it's not always that bad. First of all, like every single one of us eats emotionally in one way or another, right? When you are like at a birthday party and you eat a piece of cake, you are eating for a celebration, there are emotions included, and it's really, really hard to like separate emotions and eating, right? I mean, we kind of tie together that love and nurturing and nourishing with the eating, with the emotions of love. Like the first thing that happens to us as human beings is we are given to our mother, that she breastfeeds us or gives us a bottle, it doesn't matter. But that first connection happens through food, right? And that's like the biggest emotion you can possibly imagine, like the first thing that happens to you when you come to the world, right? So I want to just make that very clear, that emotional eating shouldn't be that demonized and seen as something that's like the worst thing that you can do for yourself. Like if you don't have mechanisms to cope with your feelings, I'm gonna argue that it's better to eat a cake than go do drugs, right? Or something like that. So it's not like the worst thing that you can be doing for yourself. But it is, you know, if you approach it with curiosity, if you approach it with like, why am I eating? What is behind this? Like, am I just stuffing myself because I am empty and there is not enough stuff like happening in my life? Is my life just so boring? Or am I eating because I'm lonely? Like, for example, you come home from work and there is nobody there, and then you just eat to forget that. Or the same can happen if you don't allow yourself to eat. And that's why this like whole food thing can be so complicated. That's like, it's the best to like really tune in and work, like you can work with me or someone else who like fits you better, but just to be able to see what's really going on behind there. And you know, then you can start tuning into your real hunger, and then from that place you can, you know, be like choosing if, you know, this is the only coping mechanism that you have for the moment, you know. And then like if you choose to eat and you know why you are doing it, at least you know it, and then next time you can choose differently, right? This is a journey. This is not something that like, aha, now I ate emotionally because of that, now I'm never gonna do that again. Like, if it was that easy, that would be really cool, but most of the times it's not. It takes practice, it takes tuning in, it takes like accountability, it takes like really being immersed in that journey and really paying attention, which is something that we don't often do that much, right? How many times do we go through the day and we don't even, like, our mind is somewhere else, we just do things automatically, and it just seems like that everything just happened and you weren't even there, right? And this like tuning into what am I really hungry for gives you that opportunity to see what's happening in the background. And then, you know, you can just choose from there what you're gonna do about it. Maybe it's a situation that's like you just don't know what else to do, and then you just eat because it's something horrible and you have never like been in that situation. You don't know what's the coping mechanism, right? And in that moment you choose to eat. And I want you to know that if that happens, don't judge yourself, okay? That won't help you like in any way, shape or form. It's not about judging yourself, it's about noticing. And then when it's over, then you say, okay, so this situation happened, it triggered me in this way, and I went and ate like, I don't know, half cake for it, and so now I still feel this horrible emotion and I feel stuffed and uncomfortable and so on. What can I do better next time, right? And then you are able to do progress. You are able to, you know, maybe journal about it and be like, next time, instead of doing this, you know, instead of eating when I'm angry, or eating when I didn't stand up for myself, or eating because like I'm lonely, or whatever the reason is, next time in that situation I can either like say to the person like who made me, you know, because of the situation that I found myself in, I was angry, and the next time maybe I can say that to that person who was there. Or maybe next time when I feel lonely, I can call my friend and go out for a walk, or just go alone or something like that. And I know like in today's lockdown kind of world, it's not always possible, but you can still, like on social media, that's one of the really good things about it, is that we are all connected, right? And then, you know, you can always reach out to someone, or in a Facebook group, like it doesn't even need to be people that you know personally. It can be like you reach out in our Facebook group here, or reach out in some other, you know, Facebook group or community, or wherever you need. Just, you know, have those options for the next time when that happens, and then you can do better, okay? So that's why it's really important to always know what we want, and you know what is it that we truly want to create in our life, right? And sometimes you don't even know, and that's the gift of emotional eating. When you notice that you are eating and you are not physically hungry, you can notice like, okay, what's going on here? And maybe it's not something that you notice right away, like with the loneliness or like with the anger. Anger is like this strong emotion, and you are probably gonna notice right away, yeah, I am probably eating because my boss was a giant jerk and I didn't stand up for myself, and now I'm angry and that's why I'm eating, right? This is kind of a intense emotion, and that's gonna maybe be easier to notice, right? But sometimes it's much more subtle, like it happens and you aren't really sure, like on the surface you seem like you are doing everything that you are supposed to be doing, but it's still happening, right? And then this gives you an opportunity to see like, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? Is this really what, you know, what makes me happy and what's possible for me, and so on? And that gives you then the chance to find out, you know, what is it that you want, and then maybe you can even start looking at the steps of how you can create that, right? And that all came from that emotional eating. So that's one of the reasons why I don't want you to judge yourself for it, because when it happens, it's much better to see it as this gift, right? As something that is here, that happened to you, that made you realize that there is something in your life that you want to change, that made you see that you are created for more in your life, and this is like just not doing it anymore. Maybe you want a new job, maybe you want like a new husband or something. Maybe you want to move out in another city, or find new friends, or start a new hobby, you know. There is a lot that you can find out from that emotional eating, but that only happens when you choose to tune in and ask yourself like, am I really hungry right now, or is this just like, you know, just something going on behind it? And what is it, and how can I make myself, you know, cope with this feeling, cope with this emotion? What else can I do instead of eating, right? And it's important like to see, and then with the practice, when you get better, you are gonna notice that if it doesn't happen anymore so often, then when it does happen, you are gonna be much more likely to not even start with the judging yourself on being a jerk to yourself. You're gonna be like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I didn't eat emotionally in a while, well, now it's happening again. What's going on, right? It's a gift gift. It's not something that you need to just stop and like ignore and so on. It's really, you know, when you are eating from that place of there's something more in there. I'm not hungry, but I'm stuffing myself. I really need all this food to like pick me up, right? To fill me up with something. That can be a really, really good sign for you to tune in, and after you are done with eating, not be like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm a horrible person. I shouldn't be eating emotionally, blah, blah, blah. Instead of being like that, then you can more be like, okay, this is interesting. Like, this is something that I can learn from. This is something that's gonna help me grow as a person. And this is something that I maybe don't want. Hey, so nice to have you here. And this is something that I don't want to be doing in the future because it didn't really help me, right? I ate an entire cake and then I felt like stuffed and I couldn't move from the couch because of the cake, and I still felt angry at the boss who was a jerk to me. So this isn't really working out to me. Maybe next time I want to be doing something else when I'm angry, right? And then you make that list of what can I do when I'm angry, except go and punch my boss. So maybe you punch a pillow, maybe you go for a run, right? It's to get that energy out of yourself and allow it to you know, to flow and to express it. Because like, if you choose to just sit with it and like ignore it and not honor it, right? And just eat to forget about it, that's not gonna serve you very well. And when you are eating intuitively, you're gonna notice this really fast. Like with my clients, I always have that, like, you know, if they are emotional eaters, they always start noticing, like, I don't tell them to change that at all. I just tell them to pay attention. And that's like part of the process. And then they notice, like, this is really not working out for me. I could rather do something else. And, you know, then they start with doing something else. But if you come with it with that attitude of emotional eating is horrible, I should only ever eat if I am hungry physically, you know, like, then you create that hunger fullness diet, right? And that creates that new pressure and new restriction, and it robs you of that opportunity to learn what was behind it, what was your real desire, what are you hungry for real, right? If it wasn't food, right? So it's really, really amazing to tune into that and to see it as a gift, as something that can teach you and that can bring you closer home to yourself. And one more thing that I want to make clear about this whole emotional eating is that you cannot do it while you can't do this learning experience from it while you are dieting and restricting yourself, because when you are dieting and when your body is starving, of course you're gonna overeat, right? That's just how diets work. When you are undernourished, like, your body is gonna ask for food, and then you will be overeating and eating an entire cake. And that doesn't mean that you were eating emotionally. It means that you were hungry, that your body is hungry and it thinks that it's gonna starve, and therefore it's eating and wanting food. And that's a different issue, you know, when you are eating from that place. That just means that you need food because you are hungry, right? Because your body is trying to protect you and it thinks it's in danger and so on. And I mean, you know about that already. If you are following me and listening to me for a while now, you already know that the diets are just like the worst and that your body needs food. And when you are denying that food, denying that appetite, right? We go back to that, denying your appetites. Your body is gonna do everything in its power to make you eat, right? It has like all those hormones and signals and processes in it to make you like eat and to make you like want that food really, really much, like. And so when you are in that place where you are overly hungry, then you can't be like, oh, I ate an entire cake because I'm emotionally eating. Yeah, like you are not emotionally eating, you are hungry, right? So that's like the step one, is to eat intuitively and give your body enough energy, enough nutrients, so that when the emotional eating happens, you are gonna know it's not about the hunger, right? It's not about that restriction, binge cycle. It's really about something else, right? So this emotional eating, I would say, is not like, you know, when you first start the whole intuitive eating journey, you don't start with that emotional eating, right? You start with replenishing your body and making your body trust you that it's gonna have food, right? That's where you start. And then after a while, when your body is like used to having food and it's not living on like 6 blueberries for dinner, right? Then you can be tuning in deeper and going deeper to yourself and being like, you know, watching those deeper things that are happening. And that works perfectly because like when you have enough food, when you are nourished and when your body is getting enough food, then you have that mental energy to be thinking about these things, right? And like if you are not having enough food, you can't be coping with all of that. You can't be like thinking about like what you should have said to your boss, or what what you could do the next time something like that happens, because your body is hungry and it's thinking like, I want freaking food, right? So it's really important to prioritize food, like to have enough food and to be like nourished, and to allow your body to have that energy to live and not to be living in that scared state of processing and of metabolizing, where it's always like, am I gonna have food again? You know, am I gonna starve to death, and so on. And then when you are in that space of like trusting your body and your body trusting you, then you can be going deeper, right? And this kind of happens naturally, at least like from what I know with my clients, right? It's always kind of when we are doing this whole intuitive eating, when they are eating regularly, eating enough and so on, and when they feel, you know, like this food thing is kind of, I wouldn't say like under control, because it's not about control, but when they feel like they are at peace with food and they are no longer scared of certain foods because we went through all of that, then, you know, it naturally comes like, aha, I have noticed when I get off the phone with my mother, I always go and eat, right? And then it's a clear sign that it may not be about the physical hunger or something like that. It may be like that your mother, something she says or the way she's talking to you or something triggers you, right? And like it's really a gift then, because then you are able to see that and notice that. And especially like I'm talking more of like from experience with my clients, because like I work with women with this, and that's like how we usually go through those phases and through the journey. And when I say phases, I don't mean that it's a linear journey. It doesn't need to be happening from point A to B, blah, 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 because that's just not how it works. It's just like a journey of it takes that natural course. When you are nourished, you can be worrying about what else in my life do I want to be dealing with, right? And it gives you that opportunity. And sometimes that food was the only coping mechanism that you had for like 30 years, you know, since you were a child. You weren't allowed to have an opinion, you weren't allowed to speak up for yourself, you weren't allowed many of those things that you know you desired and you wanted to, and then you suppress that, and then you focus on the food, right? Because then when you are focusing on how many calories you are allowed to eat, and when you are thinking all day like, oh my god, I'm hungry, I wish I could eat something. Yeah, exactly. So when you are focusing on all that food mess, then you don't need to focus like on the other things. So it's kind of all intertwined together, but you know, the starting point is always having enough food, right? Because if you are living on like, I don't know, 500 calories a day or something ridiculous like that, of course you're gonna be thinking and overeating and having that cycle of the mess with food because your body is hungry, right? So that's the first thing we wanna be doing. The second thing we wanna be remembering is never to judge ourselves. It's a learning experience. Everything is a learning experience, and even if you ate like 50 donuts, like it's not gonna ruin your life. One meal is never gonna ruin your life in any way, shape or form. Like I have that with my clients. They are often like, if I eat a whole pizza, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like giant. When they start working with me and they have that fear of like gaining weight, but in real life that doesn't happen. No matter what that binging, and overeating was, it's not gonna change your life, right? It's not gonna ruin your life in any way, shape or form if you don't allow it. If you are like, okay, this was now a learning experience, I felt like shit, right? And then you journal out, or if you are working with a coach or a nutritionist or something, then you talk to them about it and so on. And then you deal with that, what happened, from a place of curiosity, from a place of like, I want to learn how not to feel like that anymore, right? And then you can be moving on and creating strategies for the next time and having like more coping mechanisms without like being, I may never in my life eat emotionally again. Instead of being like that, you are gonna be like, okay, this is what I can add to my list of coping mechanisms and I can try it out. And if it doesn't work, I can always go back to eating, right? Food will always be there. It's not gonna disappear, right? And you can always go back to that eating emotionally and binging and overeating and so on. And those are gonna be your like strategies that you're gonna be tweaking and learning and so on, right? Because if we have that black and white kind of thinking, like, okay, from today I'm never gonna eat emotionally again, that's like that diet kind of thinking, right? Then if you do eat emotionally, if it happens, then you come back to that point when you are blaming yourself and you feel like you are failing and you can't do anything right and so on, and that doesn't feel good, and that's not gonna be serving you in a long term or in a short term, right? When you are judging yourself and being like a jerk to yourself, it's never gonna bring anything good. You did what you knew how to do. That was the only way you knew how to deal with that situation, with the emotions or whatever happened, and it's okay. Right, here we are right now, and now we are looking at the future. What can we be doing the next time? Okay, So that is like the best way that you can be dealing with this whole emotional eating and with this whole like appetite thing, right? Trusting yourself with the appetite, with your desires, whether it's about food or something else in life, right? Sometimes it's just about food, and sometimes it goes deeper. Like I have clients who come to such like crazy things that come up with that just from being aware of what's happening, right? Just from being in that, immersed in that journey. Because like when you work with me, when you work with a coach, it's this like a container, and you are immersed in that journey. You made a commitment to yourself that you are gonna give your best to figure this whole food thing out, right? And then when you are in that container, when you are there and you think every day like, you know, what am I doing with food? What is this trying to teach me? What should I tell her for the next coaching session? Or like, what should I text her in the morning? Me, and so on. Like when you have that attention on the eating and so on, it becomes much easier to see where you are going, to see what this situation meant, and to see that like you did what you had to do. Like you always gave your best, you were always doing. That's like, we are coming back to that, there is no inner enemy. You were always doing what you knew how to do, what you knew what's the best for you, right? You were always trying to do what's the best for you. And if you sit and judge yourself for it, that's not gonna bring you anywhere, right? It's just about expanding your options, right? Expanding your coping options for the next time when something happens where you would usually be like eating emotionally, okay? So that's kind of all I want you to remember for today. And of course, if you do wanna, like if you are having issues with emotional eating and with the food in general, with the diets and so on, you can always come work with me. And like it's really amazing. Like I love my clients so much. I have always had like these amazing women, and that's something that I talked about like on Instagram and so on. Like every single woman that I ever worked with was an amazing woman. So there is nothing wrong with you, right? You didn't do anything wrong. There is never like some, I don't know what kind of person people usually think is like having this disordered eating and the whole dieting mess and the emotional eating, and like it's never like someone, you know, you could guess, right? It's like normal people that you eat, that you see on the street, normal people that you have in your life and so on. It's nothing like someone special that it happens to, right? And it's not, you know, sometimes it's successful, happy women, right, that just got tangled into this whole dieting world and they just can't get out, right? And it's really amazing to see how they come from that like thinking 24/7 about the food and obsessing about, am I gonna gain weight, you know, if I eat this, if I don't eat it, and this food like just takes so much of your time, of your life, because like it's always there, right? I mean, we live in a world where food is everywhere, right? So when it's like taking all of your energy, it really stops you from just living your life. And then when they go through that transformation and come out on the other way, it's like the whole world opens up for you. And the same was for me, like, you know, I was also dieting for like a decade, and when I came out of that, there was like, oh my God, this is possible, look what people are doing with their lives. And when I was in the dieting, I just couldn't see that, right? I couldn't think further from like, what's my next meal? I couldn't think like, you know, what do I want to do with my life? Because it was like, dinner is at 7 and I'm allowed to eat like, I don't know, whatever, a piece of fish and like zucchini or something like that, right? And that was all I was thinking about, because that was taking over my life, because of course I was hungry, right? Nobody can live like that. So when you deal with that and when you find that freedom, that's like a starting point for life, because then you see so many other options, and then you notice, you know, also these desires and all the things, that other things that you were denying to yourself aside from food, and it opens you up for like experiencing life and seeing it with much more color, with much more like, you know, vibration, with much more like enthusiasm and so on. And then you feel like, you know, I handled this issue that was bothering me. For like, I had clients that dieted for over 30 years. That is like a big chunk of life, right? And it's not unique and it's not special like to diet for 30 years. It's more or less normal. There are like a lot of women doing that, spending like their whole life dieting. And then, you know, when you come out of that, it's like, wow. It's amazing. That's why I really love this whole intuitive eating, because it really opens up your world, where you don't need to think, you know, what am I allowed to eat? How many grams of carbs does this have? And stuff like that. It's much easier to go through life and to see what other areas of life you want to be handling, right? And also, like, when you learn how to handle the food issue, because it's huge. It's just like, we live in a diet culture. You are gonna have everywhere, like on a daily basis, people who wanna talk about their next diet, especially now with the new year, right? Everyone is starting a new diet, and everyone is bonding with it, with that suffering, like, oh my God, I really wish I could eat a piece of cake, but I can't, I'm doing low carb, you know. It's kind of a bonding experience, right? And like, when you handle that, when you manage to put yourself out of that, that is like a huge like relief, and that gives you that like, oh my God, I handled this after so many years of suffering. I can take over the freaking world. Like, nothing can stop me anymore, right? And it's really amazing. So I want you to see like where you are with the food and where you are with your other desires. Like, is there something that you are denying to yourself that you didn't even like consider how you could be doing that, right? Maybe you know, like for example, maybe you know you want to write a book one day, but you haven't even Googled like how to write a book. You just think that that is something that's unachievable for you, that is something that other people can do, but you can't. But when you Google it and when you notice that it's just like easy, like if you have the words, right, the other part is easy, then it becomes something that, you know, it's achievable for me. Like, look at all these other people, like it can be done. So how should I start? Where should I start? What should be my first steps, and so on? And luckily on Google you can find easily what should be your first steps, like everything that you need to know about making any desire true. You can just Google it and find out. It's not a lack of knowledge, right? Just like with people who work with me, it's never a lack of nutrition information that's keeping them stuck. Never. Like, I had clients who knew like books about diets, like it's insane. They knew exactly how many grams of everything is allowed in when, you know, what time of the day, combined with what food and so on. Like, you know, we are all capable of remembering a lot of things, but we need to focus on remembering the things that are actually gonna make our lives better, right? That are actually gonna one day when we are 100 years old and when we are looking back at our life, that we are like proud of ourselves and like, oh my God, look at all those things, look at me being myself, expressing myself and just embodying my body and living my life fully, whatever that is, right? And so it's really important to tune into our desires, to tune into like what are we hungry for, and to give ourselves enough food to have energy to create that what we desire, to manifest it, to like bring it to life, right? If we don't have enough energy, you can desire all you want, but somewhere along the way, you know, you are likely to give up because you are still gonna be in that like, I'm starving, I'm binging, I'm starting a new diet tomorrow, and then after 2 days the same cycle goes over and over and over again. And when you get rid of that, like the world opens up, okay? So, the takeaways for today: have enough food, eat enough food. Ask yourself when you are having enough food, ask yourself like, what am I hungry for? When you notice that it's happening like that, you are eating mindlessly and that it's just like, what's going on? Thank you so much. Oh my God, that means so much to me. Thank you. I'm really grateful to have you here, and all of you like who come and watch this or watch the replays or DM me. Like, it really lights me up and brings me that energy to keep showing up all the time. It really means the world to me. So I guess that's it for today. And I'm gonna see you next week with a new topic, and I'm not gonna reveal it right now because there are two that I am thinking about what I will be doing next week, but at the end it doesn't matter because like I'm gonna go through both of them. And I also wanted to ask all of you who are watching right now or the replay or the YouTube or listening to the podcast episode, I'm thinking about creating a membership site for us, and it's gonna be like a wild woman self-care kind of membership, and it's gonna be amazing. And I wanna know like if you would be interested in that, if you would be a part of it. And I think I'm gonna make it just like a cost $11 because like 11/11, right? And so it's gonna be like all those things about that make the self-care, the truly deep self-care, not about like taking a bath, because it's more than that, right? We know that it's more than that. So if you are interested in that and if you would be a part of that, just let me know, because like of course it's not gonna work if there is only me in the membership, right? So I'm gonna need you to come and make that community a community, right, of the women who are like like-minded women who are able to support each other. And like of course when you are all into this whole self-care in this kind of way that is joyful and easy and deep, it runs really deep, I think we can create so much change, like generationally, and I think that this world really needs it, right? I mean, we are kind of stepping into something new and nobody knows what the fuck is going on anymore, right? So it's really, I think it would be amazing to have that container of women who are like, want to step up for themselves, right, and show up for themselves, and to have that accountability, right? If when you are in the membership, then you have that accountability where you are like, oh my God, yes, like I need to show up for myself, I need to be doing something for myself, right? Because as women it's so easy to forget it, right? It's really easy. Yeah, and something, I want to create something like that, and it would be like, I'm thinking to have like short daily meditations, like live meditations, like, but it would be like 5 minutes to 10, because you know that I always say, like, I want us to be doing those smallest steps possible, but long term, in a way that's really gonna change something for us. And if we can show up daily for 5 minutes for ourselves, I think that would like create a huge change, just that. And then also I want to have like a monthly theme, and then we do like a class on the subject or the topic, and we can do some longer like Reiki healings like I had in the previous events, for example, with her story, like that, something like that. And like to have that also like some journaling prompts and so on, like there would be more things, but the main thing would be that it's a self-care membership that goes really deep, and that is something that's joyful and easy for us, that we want to be showing up, that it's not like a chore, right? It shouldn't be a chore, it should be something that we want to be doing. So I'm really happy that you like the idea, and I need to come up with a name for it. So I'm gonna, of course, keep you posted on that, like you are my people, and so you're gonna know what's going on. So I'm gonna see you next week, and I'm so happy to see you here and to know that the things that I'm talking are like helping someone, and I'm not just randomly talking to the screen. That means a lot to me. And oh my God, I love you both so much. Okay, so see ya next week, and have a great day and a great week. Okay, see ya.